We learned this in radio class. I think it's called plugola, what you're doing.
When was that? When did they go to college? 50 years ago? Can't play Elvis. We start with Mavs winning game one. Luka at 33. Kyrie's hot early, ended the game with 30, bro. Here's Luka.
Amazing. He got us going. You know, without him, we'll probably be down 20 in the halftime. So he had us going. So I had to help him in the second half a little bit. So we switched roles this time.
Historical record under Jason Kidd. All losses. Last night, W. So, Nick, are you surprised the Mavs won? And I would like to add,
What?
very sneaky by you.
What did I do?
You kind of covered all your bases
What do you
yesterday.
mean? What do you mean?
You're
I
like,
picked the Mavs to win the series, and I picked them to win the
I
game.
could see them
I
doing this.
even
Watch.
contradicted Patrick
Look,
Mahomes.
the last series didn't even pick a winner.
Right,
Till game
because I
six.
didn't,
So now
I
it's
didn't, I didn't
continuing.
need
What
to.
do you expect?
Because I have been committed to the Dallas Mavericks for 2 years.
Okay.
Last year, y'all mocked me for it, but a moment of reflection, if we may, because this has been a tough week for Kevin Wild.
What I do?
No, it's just the week started poorly for you.
Oh.
You got very lucky, buddy. Because as painful as Monday was,
Yeah.
with bruised Timberwolves beating your Nuggets,
Why I didn't do it.
if Brew is a kinder man than me, a gentler man than me, a better man than me,
A gentleman.
yeah, a gentleman even, if your Nuggets had gotten to this round, this Dallas team would have taken care of them.
What is this?
And you got incredibly lucky because I wouldn't have been as nice as Brew was, because this Dallas team right now is perfectly positioned because everyone knows their exact roles. Luka is getting better as the playoffs are going along. Kyrie Irving, I think
His knee was bleeding yesterday.
yeah, and it didn't matter.
Well,
I don't even know what that was.
The
It's
blood,
obviously
who
not-
cares?
yeah, it's not related to the injury.
I love how Kyrie is playing.
Kyrie is.
Which really,
And
he's talking and leading.
Yes.
Everything about him has been impressive. But he also, you know what's also been impressive? He seems to understand his own physical limitations within the game that I don't think, because throughout his career, he's never given this type of effort defensively that he's given in this postseason. I think he knows I can't do that and give you 40 minutes of awesome offense. So I am picking my spots where I think the team needs it. Last round, he was trying to save it up for second halves. Yeah. He said yesterday, I've been in the conference finals. None of these other guys have been. Let me fire all my bullets early and then trust Luke will fit into the game. So that, plus the role guys, knowing their role guys and knowing their role, I think that the Mavs are wildly dangerous. And I think if you woke up this morning a Mavs fan, it's the most optimistic you've been about your team since after Game 5 of the 2011 finals.
I was going to say, even going into that finals.
Right. After once you went up 3-2 on the Heat. So that's, I mean, I think they should feel.
Well, of course they should feel good. They just won Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who just knocked out the reigning the champions, who also had the MVP of Jokic. So, of course, that's not exactly that hard hitting, quite frankly. Like obviously, if you're a Mavs fan, you should feel great. You just won Game 1 on the road, like against the Timberwolves. So, of course, you should feel good.
Oh, great, and I'm not surprised because I called it.
I would add this about Kyrie.
Yeah.
I actually wonder. Now, I could be totally wrong. It's just pure speculation. I wonder, was he pacing himself during the OKC series?
That's what, yes.
Because he clearly wasn't doing what he can do offensively. And was he thinking, if I have to turn it on so we can win the series, then I will. But if I can, I'm going to pace myself for the rest of the next week series or one series, whatever it is. I agree with a lot of what you said. One thing I disagree with, and I said this, I think, last week during the second round between Minnesota and Denver. I don't think Dallas would have had much of a chance to beat Denver.
Oh, wow.
But I thought if they meet Minnesota, while I'm picking Minnesota, I thought this was like a closer series. So it looks like.
That's exactly what I said the other day, that I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves, or that the Dallas Mavericks have a better chance to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves than they do the Denver Nuggets. So I totally am in agreement with Brew. But I just want to comment real fast about the whole pacing himself. No, you're trying to win that series. That's absurd. Kyrie wasn't pacing himself thinking about the next series. If that was the case, I mean, they lost games. It could have gone to a game 7. Like, they almost lost that series. So I totally reject that notion. I mean, that there's just no evidence, and that would make 0 sense. 0 sense.
Like that, I'm surprised because they hadn't won a game 1. But you know, look, they came out, and I know they got to be motivated because they only shot 6 for 25 from 3. Mm-hmm. So they won a game on the road shooting 24% from 3. Like you said, Kyrie, I think what he did coming out early did a few things. It allowed Luka to kind of took pressure off Luka, all right, with Kyrie going so crazy in the first half. I think it relaxed his younger teammates and less experienced teammates who had never played in a conference final. Mm-hmm. And it sent Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota perimeter defenders a message. Because obviously Ant, in fun somewhat, had called him out, said, I'm going to guard Kyrie, we're going to go against each other. But the difference here is that against Denver, as great as Jamal Murray is, he obviously doesn't have the wiggle or the speed that Kyrie does. And then KCP, same thing. Mm-hmm. So guarding those perimeter defenders is different than guarding Luka and Kyrie. So I think they sent that message. But, you know, it was a good game for the Mavs.
Yeah, no, listen, it was a really fun game to watch. It was competitive the whole game. You know, you never had a feeling that any lead was safe. At any moment, it was a great game all around. That was really, really exciting. There was a few things that stood out to me. One, Luka continues to grow and mature. He's really complaining so much less to the refs. And then before these playoffs started, that's what I said is such a big issue, and that will hold him back. And to see him continue with that trajectory, because that's what I was curious. Would he continue with that? Because he let go of that in the middle of the OKC series. And so I was just curious, will that continue? And it has for the most part. And to me, that's really been impressive. And I think, right, that was a big key for Kyrie to get that start, because it is. When your two best players, Luka and Kyrie, it is. When you are another player on that team, another role player, when you're looking to those guys to lead you, if they don't come out hot in an intense situation, game 1, Western Conference Finals, everyone gets tighter now. So unless Kyrie or Luka, for that matter, are putting up these points and making you feel like, all right, we got this, you don't get the chance to relax. And once you see Kyrie's on and Luka, then it allows you to feel a lot more comfortable. You know where to get the ball. You're a little bit more comfortable maybe shooting or taking another chance. Like, everyone just feels more comfortable. Where if Kyrie keeps rimming these shots out or turn the ball over, then everyone starts to get a little bit tighter. And you do have the feeling as a player, oh man, Kyrie keeps missing right now. You know, and then you kind of like start cursing to yourself, and you're like, all right. Like, someone's got to step up, and Luka's not doing anything. Like, then your roles are no longer defined. But when Luka and Kyrie, your main scorers, your main aggressors, the main facilitators, are doing what they're supposed to do, then you get back into your role. And that's what kind of happened with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ant was not really Ant that we know, and that now had a bunch of other players having to step up more so. And now everyone's role is not as defined. You have Gobert taking some shots, and I'm like, Gobert, that's not your game. What are you doing? And so one of the best players on the court was not Cat or Ant. And so, like, that becomes a problem, because basketball is very much a hierarchy. I mean, it really is. It's very much, you do have, and I don't mean positions when I say this, but in terms of your ranking, it's like you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You have your first, second, third, fourth option. Like, you know who these people are. That's why sometimes you see certain players, when they call for the ball, if they don't get it, they get angry, because it's like, yo, give me the ball. I don't care what else is going on. When I'm on the court and I reach my hand out to be like, give me the ball, you give it to me. We saw that happen with KD and Draymond Green, because they both are top dogs and alphas, and there was an issue. But even in the finals, KD called for the ball from Steph, and Steph didn't get it to him, and KD got like mad to be like, give me the ball. And that is one of the only issues that you have when you're playing with multiple stars. on alphas like that, because it is, right? That's when they kind of go back, well, whose team is it? Whose team is it? And it can take some time to kind of get that bounce. But when other players that are stepping up, your third or fourth option, are kind of leading the charge, it does disrupt everything. You are kind of like, well, where do we stand right now? What's going on? Who is leading this team? Even though you know who indeed is actually the leaders. So that's, to me, what kind of happened with the Mavs, or with the Timberwolves, which is why it was so important for Kyrie to hit that ground running. It clearly defined everyone's roles, and everyone knew exactly what they needed to do. But the other game for the Minnesota Timberwolves, since they didn't have that, it was very much like, well, what's going on? Is Gobert going to put up 20? Like, what's happening? Is Conley going to have to knock down 4 threes? Like, you could feel that and see that. But the other point that I want to bring up though is that, and we saw this kind of similar with Denver after they were coming off the series with the Lakers, because it was a sweep for Minnesota. So they had a lot of extra rest, and so they were able to come out fighting against Denver. And that was kind of the problem. And then Denver was on their back foot for those first 2 home games because they didn't get as much rest, and Minnesota was way more well rested. And the Mavs did have an extra day rest, and every day matters. Every day matters. There's no question about it. One day you're ridiculously sore, and then literally 24 hours later, it's like you didn't even do anything. Like you're perfectly recovered. Like that's how fine lines this is. And they were in Denver, at altitude. They were playing an exhausting series, a 7-game series. Like, Minnesota is definitely more tired right now, and that's why Ant was exhausted. I understand Kyrie added to that. That to me is over exaggerated. Everyone's saying that now mainly because Reggie Miller said that. First, Reggie Miller said that Ant was injured. That's what he said, and then he switched it to, oh, he's so exhausted because of Kyrie. So Reggie Miller was just kind of shooting from the hip, which I like. I respect that. But to just say that Ant is just now completely exhausted because of that, like something like Ant was gassed. He could barely lift his from his like hip, like he could barely like lift his back up straight. He was gassed, absolutely gassed. I understand Kyrie is an unbelievable player, an elite player. He is not Speedy Gonzalez where he's just running around forever, and now Ant all of a sudden can't play. Like, there was more to that. It was a combination between Kyrie being difficult to defend and being tiring, as well as Ant, the cumulative fatigue of an intense 7-game series, shorter rest relative to what the Dallas Mavericks had, and to me it was kind of the perfect storm. So but yeah, no, I mean, all the credit goes to the Mavs for winning that game, staying focused. They stayed every time the Timberwolves tried to take charge of that game and take hold of it. The Mavericks were able to keep it close, and they were able to obviously, of course, get the lead when it mattered and then hold on to it. So it was a very exciting game. It was a nail-biter, wire to wire. Like I said, you really had no idea what was going on. But the truth is, both teams have to kind of feel good, the way I see it. I think, obviously, if you're a Timberwolves fan, you're a little nervous because you just lost game 1. It never feels good to lose any game, let alone game 1 at home. But if you're a Mavs fan, you're feeling good because you're like, that's right, we just beat the Timberwolves. They're this great team, but we're better. We got Luka, we got Kyrie, like, let's go. You're excited about that, and as you should. But then with the Timberwolves, you should also feel kind of good because you know Ant and Cat didn't have, like, their best games. They I don't think the Timberwolves played particularly well. I think their role players stepped up, which was good, and that's why they even kind of stayed in this game and almost won this game. But that was not an Ant-led game at all, and so you have to expect that Ant will be better. And if it is a Kyrie situation, then they'll readjust, right? Then they'll make adjustments. But if it is just a fatigue thing, then hopefully after he gets some rest, which again, it is hard because you're playing every other, so that rest might not happen until they go on the road, which is exactly what happened with the Denver Nuggets. But yeah, it's a really interesting series. It's definitely really fun, and I'm excited to watch the rest of it. So to me, that game 1 was exactly as advertised, right? It was a back and forth, like it had excitement. Anyone could win that game at any moment. At any moment, you really didn't know what was going to happen. So this is a fun series, and hopefully we get like another 6-7 game series. I would absolutely love that, because that was what was so great about the Denver Nuggets and Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, that was an intense 7-game series. Obviously, there was a bunch of blowouts in it, but that also kind of made it exciting, because when you had blowouts on both sides, you're like, you really had no idea how Game 7 was going to go, right? Like, it's not like you had any sense, well, it's going to be a close game, or well, Denver is going to blow them out, or Minnesota's going to blow them out, because both were possible. You got literally all the options that could happen in that series. And so far this game right now for this series, we saw a really close game. So I'm just curious to see if all these games are going to be close. Like, it wouldn't shock me if Dallas blows out Minnesota next game, or other way around. Minnesota comes roaring back and Ant goes for 40, and it's just and now everyone's like, oh, did we count out the Minnesota Timberwolves too soon? Like you just don't know. So this is just a great series. That's what's so great about this, is that you don't really know. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Were you guys surprised that the Mavs won Game 1? And what do you think? Do you think, after seeing that first game, do you think the Mavs are in the driver's seat, or the Timberwolves? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.